You wake to silence the kind that hums after applause dies. The marble beneath your feet is cool, though your palms are slick with sweat. Somewhere beyond the palace walls, Rome still breathes. But not for you. The city you once ruled like a god now stirs with the uneasy rhythm of betrayal. Before we begin this descent into the final days of Nero, take a breath and look around you wherever you're watching from. Maybe it's midnight in Lahore, dawn in New York, or the quiet middle hours in Madrid. Across centuries and continents, we gather to witness history's strangest truth, that the world's most powerful man can die utterly alone. If this kind of storytelling grips you, if you can almost hear the echoes of ancient footsteps, then lend this moment your curiosity, a like, a comment, a trace of where you stand on this spinning globe. Together, we'll resurrect the fall of an emperor. Now, the story begins. It is June, 68 AD. A pale light creeps over the Palatine Hill, touching domes and statues with indifferent gold. Inside the Domus Aurea, the golden house Nero Claudius Caesar stirs beneath silk sheets that once symbolized divinity. The room smells faintly of roses and smoke. Outside, the palace guards have vanished. Only the rustle of curtains and the distant caw of crows remain. He sits up slowly, rubbing his eyes. No heralds come to announce the day's business. No servants rush to pour his morning wine. There is only Phaon, a freedman, pale and trembling, kneeling at the door. "Caesar," Phaon whispers, his voice cracking. "The Senate has met. Galba marches from Hispania. The guard." Nero cuts him off with a lazy wave as if shooing away a fly. The guard is loyal. They are paid. But even as he speaks, he hears the echo of boots fading in the corridors, men slipping away to join the victors. The emperor rises, his robe trailing across mosaic floors depicting gods he once thought were his equals. In the corner lies his golden lyre, the instrument he played as the city burned years before. He had not seen flames that night, only beauty in destruction. "What is Rome?" he once mused, "if not a stage for my art?" Now that art feels like mockery. The same citizens who once chanted his name now curse it. He wanders to the window overlooking the Forum. It's quiet. Too quiet. He remembers the sea of faces that once lifted their arms toward him as if he were Apollo himself. They are gone. In their place, smoke rises from torches of rebellion. Down below, a messenger gallops toward the Senate House, scroll in hand. Nero imagines what the parchment contains. The word hostis enemy, written beside his own name. A public enemy. The Emperor of Rome, reduced to a criminal in the eyes of the state he ruled. He turns to the marble bust of Augustus, the founder of their line. Dust coats the emperor's sculpted curls. "Grandfather," Nero mutters, "what legacy have you cursed me with?" His voice echoes back, hollow and small. Hours pass. The palace empties further. The fountains still whisper, but no one listens. He summons his few remaining attendants. Epaphroditus, the secretary, Sporus, the young companion he dressed as his dead wife, and Phaon, ever faithful. Their faces are drawn, afraid to meet his eyes. "Is it true?" Nero asks, almost gently. "They have turned against me?" Epaphroditus bows his head. "Yes, Caesar. The Praetorians have sworn to Galba. The Senate prepares your condemnation." A tremor passes through Nero's hands. He forces a smile. "Then the Senate condemns itself. I am the artist of Rome. Without me, what are they?" No one answers. The silence that follows as heavy centuries seem to gather in it. Outside, thunder rumbles in the distance. The summer air feels thick, swollen with rain and revolution. Nero walks alone through the halls of his palace, each room a monument to his vanity. Frescoes of gods and heroes glare down at him. The air smells of perfume turning sour. He passes the stage where he once performed tragedies before an audience of trembling senators. Now, only shadows fill the seats. He pauses before a mirror of polished bronze. The reflection that stares back no longer resembles the golden youth of coins and statues. The cheeks are sunken, the eyes red-rimmed. He whispers, almost to himself, "Am I still Caesar?" In the courtyard, lightning splits the sky. For a heartbeat, it paints his silhouette in silver, an emperor on the edge of ruin. He thinks of his mother, Agrippina, whose murder he ordered years ago. He hears her voice in the rain. "You will destroy yourself, Nero." He closes his eyes. By nightfall, word reaches him. The Senate's decree is final. He is hostis publicus. The title carries a single meaning: death without trial. The freedmen wait for his command. Flee? Hide? Beg for mercy? Nero does none of these. He simply stands at the threshold of his once magnificent home, staring into the storm. A drop of rain touches his face. "Then Rome turns its back," he says quietly, "and I face the darkness alone." Night cloaked the city that had once crowned him divine. Rome, vast and sleepless, hummed beneath the stars as Nero Claudius Caesar fled its heart in silence. The cobbled streets that had once paraded his triumphs now served as his escape route. Cloaked in coarse wool, his jeweled rings removed, his golden hair hidden beneath a hood, the emperor rode not as a ruler, but as a fugitive. Rain gathered in his lashes. The scent of wet earth and smoke mingled with the faint rot of old fires, ghosts of the empire he had built from flame and vanity. At his side rode 3 figures: Phaon, Epaphroditus, and Sporus. None spoke. Each knew that the echo of a hoofbeat could summon death. Behind them, Rome shimmered in the distance, its 7 hills lit by torches and vengeance. The Senate had declared him hostis publicus, a public enemy. His name was a curse now. His statues were being torn down, his portraits defaced. The gods he had once claimed kinship with watched in silence, marble eyes unblinking as their chosen son unraveled. They galloped until the lamps of the city blurred into the horizon. The horses panted, their breath steaming in the chill night. Phaon dared a glance backward. "We must take the lesser road," he urged. "The main causeway is watched." Nero nodded absently. His voice, when it came, was thin. "I had thought that I could still command the night." The countryside unfolded before them, fields dark and unharvested, the air heavy with rain. Somewhere an owl called, and Nero flinched at the sound. Every noise seemed a herald of betrayal. He remembered when such nights had been his to orchestrate, when slaves had lined his paths with flowers, when singers had praised his voice to the moon. Now the only song was the steady rhythm of hooves and the murmured prayers of frightened men. They stopped near a small grove where the trees bent low with the weight of the storm. There, by the flicker of a damp torch, Nero dismounted. His boots sank into the mud. For a moment, he stared into the darkness as though expecting applause from unseen spectators. None came. "Will the world remember my art?" he asked quietly. "My voice? My verses?" Epaphroditus hesitated, unsure if this was a question or a plea. "Yes, Caesar. The world remembers greatness." Nero gave a brittle laugh. "No, not greatness, beauty. They will forget I ruled, but they will remember I sang." The thunder answered him, low and mocking. They rode on, skirting villages where lights still burned in the windows. The smell of bread drifted through the rain, a reminder of ordinary lives untouched by empire. Once, these people would have fallen to their knees at the mere rumor of his approach. Now, if they recognized him, they would deliver him to his executioners for the promise of coin. At dawn, the horizon bruised with gray. Their cloaks were soaked, their horses weary. In the distance rose the outline of a farmhouse, simple, thatched, and mercifully still. They approached in silence. Phaon knocked softly on the wooden door. An old farmer answered, his eyes narrow and cautious. "My master seeks shelter," Phaon began. The man's gaze flicked to Nero's face, pale beneath the hood. Something like recognition flickered there, then vanished. "No shelter here," he said flatly, and shut the door. Nero stood for a moment, staring at the rough wood, then turned away. The emperor of Rome had been refused a peasant's roof. As the day dragged on, fatigue gave way to despair. The rain eased, leaving behind a damp, metallic stillness. Nero's lips moved soundlessly, reciting verses from memory snatches of tragic poetry he had once performed before trembling senators. He spoke of gods who lost their thrones, of heroes undone by pride. When the sound of hooves approached again, the small group froze. A lone rider emerged from the mist, a messenger, his cloak torn, his face streaked with mud. He dismounted and bowed hastily. "My lord," he gasped, "I bring word from the Senate." Nero's eyes, once bright with arrogance, dulled. "Speak." The man hesitated. "They have condemned you to death-beating humiliation. They mean to display you, as they once did the conquered kings." The words seemed to drain the color from the dawn. Phaon cursed softly under his breath. Sporus turned away, shoulders shaking. Nero said nothing at first. Then, with a sound half between laughter and a sob, he murmured, "Is there no one left who will pity me?" The messenger looked at him uncertain and whispered, "None, Caesar." The silence that followed was vast. The wind moved through the reeds like whispers from a vanished world. Nero sank to his knees in the mud, his cloak heavy with rain. For the first time, he did not look like an emperor or even a man of history, but like something smaller, fragile, and utterly lost. He stayed there until the wind grew cold again. Then, slowly, he rose, his face pale as marble. "Then I will be my own deliverer," he said, "before Rome takes what dignity remains." As the last light faded from the sky, the exiled emperor mounted his horse once more. The road ahead vanished into shadow, and the sound of his departure was swallowed by the wind. Dawn crept over the fields outside Rome, pale and indifferent. Mist gathered low to the ground, wrapping the villa of Phaon in a shroud of quiet foreboding. Inside, Nero paced like a trapped animal, the once golden emperor now disheveled, trembling, and unrecognizable. His tunic hung loose, his feet bare, the weight of empire stripped away. He had ridden through the night, clutching at fragments of hope that dissolved with each passing hour. By morning, there was none left. The Senate had branded him an enemy of the state. The Praetorians, his own guards, had sworn allegiance to Galba. Even the gods seemed to have withdrawn their favor. The villa's walls, once bright with frescoes, now seemed to close in on him. The smell of damp plaster, oil lamps, and sweat filled the air. Nero's voice quivered as he spoke to the few who still remained: Epaphroditus, Sporus, and Phaon. "They will not take me alive," he said, his breath shallow. "I will not be dragged through the forum, bound and spat upon." No one answered. The silence was unbearable. He turned away, his reflection flickering in the polished bronze of a water basin. The face staring back at him was not that of a god or artist king, but a frightened man whose empire had collapsed into mud and memory. Outside, servants dug hastily at the earth. The scrape of shovels echoed faintly through the villa, the sound of a grave being prepared. Nero flinched each time it reached his ears. "Faster!" he called hoarsely. "The grave must be ready before they come." Phaon tried to speak comfort. "My lord, you may yet find mercy, if you surrender." "Mercy?" Nero cut him off, a wild, broken laugh tearing from his throat. "Rome has no mercy for its poets, only spectacles." He sank to the floor, clutching at his temples. "What an artist dies in me," he whispered. The words cracked, half prayer, half lament. Hours passed. The air grew thicker, heavy with dread. The sound of distant hoofbeats began to rise, a rhythmic tremor creeping through the dawn stillness. Nero froze. His eyes darted to the window. Beyond the olive trees, dust was stirring on the road. Soldiers. He staggered upright, hands shaking. They come for me." His gaze fell upon a small dagger lying on the table, its edge dulled but deadly enough. He lifted it, turning it in his hands as though it were an unfamiliar instrument. Epaphroditus stepped forward, voice low. "Caesar, if it must be done, do it swiftly." Nero's grip faltered. "I have not the strength," he said, his voice breaking. "Is this what remains of the master of the world, a coward trembling before his own hand?" The hoofbeats grew louder, now closer, inevitable. Dogs barked in the distance. Nero fell to his knees beside the table, clutching the dagger to his chest. "How terrible is this," he muttered, "that I live to teach others how to die." Epaphroditus knelt beside him, his expression torn between duty and pity. "You need only guide my hand," Nero whispered. His eyes, glazed with tears, flicked upward. Too late. This is loyalty. The sound of the approaching riders filled the air like a drumbeat. Then a gasp, a single motion, and silence. Nero's body slumped forward, the dagger buried deep. His final breath escaped as a sigh, almost gentle, as though releasing the last note of a forgotten song. The soldiers burst through the gates moments later. They found the Emperor of Rome lying lifeless on the floor, his face strangely serene. Epaphroditus stepped back, his hands trembling. One of the men muttered, "So ends Nero." Another crossed himself out of habit, though he knew not why. The villa fell quiet again, save for the wind moving through the open doorway. Sporus wept softly in the corner. The grave outside was shallow, hastily dug, but it would serve. There was no procession, no laurels, no hymns, only a few loyal hands to lower him into the earth. Rome received the news in uneasy silence. In the markets and taverns, whispers replaced cheers. Some rejoiced, others mourned in secret. The Senate ordered no funeral, no monument. His ashes were placed in the modest tomb of the Domiti family, his name already fading from the lips of those who once worshipped him. But history is never silent for long. Even as the soil settled over his body, the empire trembled. Power shifted like sand beneath the feet of men who would soon claim the throne. In the months to come, chaos would reign the year of the 4 emperors. The last of Augustus's line had perished, leaving behind an empire without an heir, without a compass. Only a lingering question hung in the air, whispered by those who remembered the madness and the music of Nero's reign. Was Rome freer without him, or forever haunted by him?